Hi gang, Ed here and welcome to day 15, halfway of the 30-day challenge. And this is really appropriate to do this halfway through. We've spent a lot of time on market research, in fact 15 whole days explaining and getting you to do all the stuff. Now it's true that you could probably, now that you know it all, you could probably, particularly with the new word tracker G-Trends tool, could literally whip through that in a few hours. But it's important, and the ratio is important too, because people make their biggest mistakes in market research. But now we've done our thing, we've picked our affiliate product, we've got something, and again, don't stress about that, just pick something. And there's Dan Rain. Granny, you should go to bed, Dan. It must be 4 AM in the morning in the UK. Sorry, and that's going to annoy people. That's going to annoy people, Dan. You're making me lose my train of thought. Point is, you've got your affiliate program. We've done our phrase research. We've identified phrases that we should be able to compete. And now, today, I'm going to show you why they compete and how they compete. So, today, I'm going to give you a why, and this is the all-important why sessions, which will explain what we're going to do over the next few days about generating traffic, and that's the real magic. And this has had such a huge change in the last 12 months. Just such a huge change. And for me, I've really completely changed my approach to internet marketing based on the last 12 months. Because I'm all about eliminating risk, and I think one of the great stories about all this latest evolution of internet technologies, which a lot of people call Web 2.0, is the ability to be able to generate traffic in a completely kosher way, enough so that you can work out whether your particular niche and those particular phrases are going to work or not. And this is so important, and I want to explain to you how we're going about doing that, just so you know what's in store for you in the next few days. Okay, let's get cracking. So this presentation is all about marketing the way the internet / Google works. I first presented this in Whistler at the Immediate Edge Bootcamp, so there are a couple of little Edge references in there, but it's more to give people context. Give people context about this process. See, here's the thing. If you get the theory that I'm teaching you today, if you get this, then you'll be set, because as sites come and go, tactics come and go, different strategies come and go, but the fundamentals never change. That magnificent I'm doing real well today. That magnificent symphony of 4 parts, market research, traffic, conversion, and product, will never change. That's the smart order to do it. Just the tools which you go about utilizing those things change on an almost daily basis. But if you understand the theory, you'll be set. Now, getting into Google. Why is that so important? Well, 50% of search traffic goes through Google, so that's a lot. And if you think about it, Googling's become part of the vernacular. It's, my grandma Googles. And when it gets to that level of penetration, you really, it's the search engine to be in. And that's where you're going to get a significant amount of traffic. Think about your own habits. Just when you're looking for something, do you use Google? I think the vast majority will. And that's why we focus so much on it. But there are all sorts of, and let me clarify this right now. There are all sorts of ways of getting into Google, and I heard it, and I first heard Joel Comm describe it this way. I'm not sure if he came up with it, but I thought it was very good. They talk about, you might have come across this yourself, black hat techniques and grey hat techniques and white hat techniques. The black hat is like the evil. If you imagine, just imagine an old-fashioned criminal wearing their black hat and getting up to all sorts of nasty stuff. Black hat search engine strategies are ones which are definitely not kosher. They're not cool. They work, and they in fact make people millions upon millions of dollars. But they don't serve the person searching Google. They don't do them any favors. They're using tactics, they're using tricks, they're using sleight of hand to get all of this working. Grey hat, I suppose, is more along the lines of, it's borderline type stuff. And then white hat is completely natural, completely good. Think good guys, think angels. It's the right way of doing it. Now, of course, in the 30-day challenge, the only thing that we're doing is white hat stuff, if you want to use that categorization. Because I think in the long term, anything else is unsustainable. The internet, because it's so new and because it's changing so much, is full of arbitrage opportunities. It's full of mismatches, and people exploit these mismatches all the time. A lot of internet marketing products are all about exploiting those mismatches. The trouble is, once the mismatch is exploited, eventually, of course, the market always finds its measure and its level, or Google notices it, and it effectively gets that arbitrage, that anomaly, gets squashed. And that often can leave people high and dry, because that's the only way of attracting, usually, traffic. It's usually a traffic-based problem. Because that's what you do when you're doing search engine stuff. You're not doing it to get ranked #1 on Google, you're doing it to get traffic. And that's the key thing. So I want to give you a metaphor here for getting into Google that I like to use, and to try give you my sort of idiot savant's guide to working with the search engines and being able to get traffic in a way that is completely cool and is enhancing of your reputation, and you're doing a good thing as well. I want you to imagine Google as a nightclub, and in fact each page, and you've been looking at a lot of pages of Google recently, each phrase is effectively a nightclub. Okay? Now, a phrase like Viagra would be the equivalent of the Viper Room in Los Angeles, the hottest of hot clubs. In fact, I'm sure because I know about the Viper Room, that can't be the coolest club, because if I know about it, it's certainly not cool. But I ruined My Chemical Romance, I think, I love My Chemical Romance. I think they're a great band, and I think that's set back the emo cause years. Anyway, I digress. Whereas, for example, a phrase like free speed reading is a bit like the Yakandanda blue light disco. That's not going to mean a lot to a lot of you, but the blue light disco for like 13-year-old kids in country towns, and they're run by the police, hence the blue light. The Yakandanda Chookshed blue light disco was, was a classic of our time. Anyway, but very easy to get into. Let's face it, if I could go, then it was definitely easy to get into. But each of these is a nightclub, so I want you to imagine that. And, the best nightclubs in town are really, 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 really hard to get into. Now, the coolest clubs in town are pretty much impossible to get into, aren't they? Unless you know somebody, or have some sort of connection, or indeed you're on the A-list, if you will. And it's a really good analogy for what we're trying to do with Google. Because unfortunately, here's how Google sees your new site when you're starting out. You're ugly. Real ugly. And Google's just not excited about letting you into any nightclub, any phrase. It doesn't matter whether it's the coolest ones, the toughest to get into, or even the relatively easy ones. And why? How ugly is it? And, well, for a start, your site is brand new, and Google hates brand new sites, because what do spammers do? They create new sites all the time, hence tarring everybody with the same brush. Google loves old sites. In fact, old sites are a bit like vintage wines and vintage guitars now. The older the site, the more valuable it is, because the less the Google thinks, and this makes completely logical sense, that if it's been around for a long, long time, it's not likely to have been used by a here today, gone tomorrow spammer. Now, of course, you're real ugly as well because you have no friends. Now, trying to get into a cool nightclub and you don't know anybody, impossible, right? The online equivalent of friends is links. There's nobody talking about you. There's nobody linking to you. There's nobody referring to you. And so Google looks at that and goes, well, not only is they new, but they've got no friends. Nobody's linking to them. Why would we possibly want them in our nightclub? Not interested. Now, there's friends, right? There's friends, and then there's influential friends. Now, influential friends are really important because their word basically gives you a head start. It doesn't matter who you're friends with. If you're not friends with the right type of influential friends, you're never going to get to that hot nightclub in town. Now, influential friends, when it comes to the internet, are authority sites. I hate using the term authority site in the sense that the term's really been abused by a bunch of internet marketers recently, and look, it's just sites that carry weight. That if you think of a particular niche, sausage making, it would be like the most important sausage making site. Again, we'll come into that. Now, you have no friends, you have no influential friends, you're brand new, and worst of all, you look dodgy. You look really, really ugly. And from a Google perspective, the traditional internet marketing opt-in pages, the sales letters that you've seen, look dodgy, even though I completely disagree with them. Like, the ones that are done properly are not. But unfortunately, there are enough that aren't done properly for Google to look at them all and say, no, you know what? You look dodgy, so I'm not going to associate you with you. I don't want you to be in my nightclub. So your chances of getting into the top 10, which is all important because that's the first page of results for people when they're typing in a phrase into Google, is, as we would say here, SFA. The first word is sweet. The last word is all. I'll let you create your own middle word for all of that. Fortunately, and we use this for, as I say, we use this for the Immediate Edge program, but hey, you can't have too many Bruce Lee pictures. That instantly makes the presentation cooler. Enter the Edge. Now, this process is a process that was initially invented by Rob Somerville, and we presented it to the Immediate Edge membership, and it's called, hence the name Maximum Edge. And when we did this presentation, we were trying to explain why this particular process, which you're going to see over the course of the next few days, why it works. And that's what this is all about. Why does all this work? How are we going to get the traffic? Now, interesting, and this is all very Confucius and Buddha, the trick of getting into Google is not to try. Trying hard means that you're trying to manipulate search engine results, and eventually that may work for the short term, but it's never going to work for the long term. And the good news is that we can actually get some pretty quick results, as you'll soon see yourself when you do it, as well as make it ecological. We can make it so that it's good. It's good for the community. It's good for the environment. It's a good thing, and from a Google perspective, it's good. And if you do that, you're always going to be, well, good. So, if I want to get into the hottest nightclub in town, how am I going to do it? Well, when you're looking at it, there's always 3 players. And the most important thing, and this has been so true, you've heard that phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. So true in life. My key secret to my success has been not what I know, but who I knew. It's just such an important thing, and you have to know people. And again, to get into that fancy pants nightclub, you're going to have to know people. And in fact, there are 3 players in this little saga. There's you and your ugly site. Then, to get into a nightclub, there's your gorgeous and very smart friend. And finally, there's your attention getter. And I'm going to explain what these are all about. Okay, our gorgeous smart friend. So if you're getting into the nightclub, you need a couple of, as I say, we need those 3 players. Now, your gorgeous smart friend is the person that the nightclub absolutely loves, but they actually are happy to associate with you. And now, our gorgeous smart friends in internet terms, the characteristics of Google loves them, and I'm going to show you how to identify those shortly. They allow you to write content. You may have seen the acronym UGC, which stands for user-generated content. They have tags, and again, I'm going to explain. You're going to see all of this in detail over the coming days. I just want to give you the theory of it before we get cracking on it. And they're actually happy to associate with you, aka put a link to your ugly site. Very, very important. So they're one of them. Now, the attention getter. They get noticed. They have, now I've got it here in brackets, and this is not necessarily so now that we've actually proved this, but they have high PR. Now, what's PR? PR stands for page rank, and if you've installed that SEO tool that we showed you how to install at the start of the challenge, that actually tells you what the page rank of each site is, and it's a rank between 0 and 10. Most sites either have no rank or very small rank, but the intention getter sites are the higher PR sites. Now, the thing with the high PR sites is this, and for our intents and purposes, the reason why we like PR sites is that they are able to bring the attention of Google your site. So there's basically saying, oh, hey Google, hey, have a look at this over here, and you point to them. That's their major focus, because sometimes they get noticed too much, and there's a lot of people who will rely just on attention getter sites to bring traffic to your site. That's bad news, because as you don't want, as I said here, you don't want mum to know that you're partying with these guys, because you'll get into trouble, you get into jail, you'll be the Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton of the internet. You'll get slapped. And that's what we want to absolutely avoid. But there are fire starters which are really, really very useful. Now, when I say a fire starter, imagine this. There's my phone going off. That's going to annoy people. Apologies about that. When I say fire starter, what I'm meaning is, imagine, if you will, a bonfire. You've got a great big bunch of sticks and wood and all that sort of stuff which you've been building up over time. And it's well, if you're in the UK, it's Guy Fawkes night, and you're about to light that bonfire. What do you need? The fire's not going to light itself, right? You need some sort of fire starter. You need some sort of ignition tool. And that's what attention getters do. It's like you rocking up to the door of the nightclub with your really cool friend. That's okay. That in and of itself will probably get you in over time, right? But the way to absolutely guarantee that you're going to get into that nightclub is if you have Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan, metaphorically speaking, of course, hanging off your shoulder to get in, because the nightclub is going to look at you and go, I don't know who this dweeb is, but hey, Paris Hilton's here, and so is Bono, and they're not coming in unless this person comes in, so okay, we'll let you in. And that's effectively what we're doing here with this strategy. And it's really, really cool when you think about it. And I suppose rather than try to get into the Viper Room, which is the most exclusive end of town, we're really only trying to get into the Yakandanda Blue Light Disco. So it's a lot easier. We don't need to have Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan. We just need the cool girl from school. And I'm running out. The metaphor is losing its edge at that point. Oh dear. The final bullet point here is the important one. Just partying with this crowd and only partying with attention getters, not gorgeous and intelligent friends, it will end in tears eventually. It might work for a while, but it will end in tears. And if you just use strategies which work with attention getters and only attention getters, you're going to be in trouble over the long term. At some point, you'll get busted. Now, of course, just to describe what an ugly site is, you'll often hear me refer to them as money pages. And there's a photo there of one of my particular money pages. So I think that's for Dominique. And the important thing about that is, from a Google perspective, they don't particularly like that. That's not their approach. But that's my money page. And why do I call it a money page? Because even though, see there, I'm after a name and an email, which is not directly asking for money, it has the overall objective. That's the first step in my conversion process, with a view to getting money at some point from people. And so that's why we refer to it as a money page. Now, we just got you to have a look at various affiliate products yesterday in day 14. Your money pages, for the purposes of the 30-day challenge, initially while we're testing, are going to be these affiliate pages. So, which is very cool. Now, as we've been harping on about, and I think some people have completely missed the significance of this, competition is such a big factor. If there's a huge queue to an exclusive club, even if you've got pretty good friends, intelligent friends, and you've got some good attention getters, you may not necessarily get in because there's just physically no room. You may be equally as cool, but there's 10 more people that are cooler than you that got in before you. So competition is important. So initially, what we want to be is the big fish in lots of small ponds. Remember how I said we start from the edge and work our way inwards. We knock off the easy stuff first, and that knocking off the easy stuff enables us to get bigger and bigger and take on bigger and bigger things. Or, if you get a name for yourself in the little regional nightclubs, eventually you'll get invited to better parties, and you go there and you make a good name for yourself there. You'll get invited to even better parties, and eventually you'll be on the A list. And that's how we intend to dominate. But for now, and certainly for the 30-day challenge, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We don't even have to worry about that. But if you continue doing this strategy post 30-day challenge, and I certainly hope you do, ultimately you'll end up being number one on a bunch of those very exclusive phrases because you've done the hard work. But that doesn't happen overnight. Sorry, folks, it just doesn't. What we're doing can happen overnight, but at the big end of town, that's a process which can take literally months. Okay, now, why are we doing this? The reason that we're doing all of this is targeted traffic. Listen carefully there, targeted traffic. This is not for getting great page rank or to be number one on Google or even to get on Oprah, which would be indeed cool. But none of those things are important. What we want is traffic. And what's the most exciting thing about this, forget the fact that it's free traffic and all these sorts of things, there's another important dynamic at play here. And I think these social networking sites, the Facebooks and all of these things that we're using, StumbleUpons and everything else that we're going to be showing you over the next few days, the important and wonderful thing about them is that for the client, in other words, the person who typed in sausage making tips, at every step of this new process, they're getting quality information. And really, I came up with the best metaphor for this is the equivalent. Well, there's a couple actually, and I will go through a few of them just so hopefully some will resonate differently with different people. The first metaphor that I've used here, I bet you it's not called metaphor either, but hey, I've, as I said, failed English, which is definitely not a surprise to anybody who's been following along the 30-day challenge. Akido versus boxing. I think I've mentioned Akido a few times, certainly on forum posts. I think people consider that in some ways the hardest of the martial arts, and ultimately perhaps one of the most effective, because it really is a defense-based martial arts in the sense that if somebody attacks you, you direct them where they want to go. Akido is all about using somebody's force, and rather than meeting that force with force, using it, to direct them where you want them to go. That's probably a dodgy explanation, but it's really about that. As the equivalent to boxing, which I think a lot of people can relate to, that's brute force, right? That is brute force. It is blunt force trauma. Two dudes sitting there smacking the living quonga honga out of you. I had to come up with a word in a hurry. It's not subtle, is it? It's not... there's not finesse at the end of the day. There is no finesse in boxing. You have to, beat the living suitcase out of the other dude. That's just how it works. Whereas Aikido's not that. It's using flow. Another way of perhaps doing this, and hopefully maybe more successful than the last one, is this analogy of old versus new marketing. And if you're looking at the picture here, you can see all internet marketing, well, most, I shouldn't say all, vast majority of internet marketing was like detours. People will be driving along, I'm looking at sausage making, and then blam, big detour slammed in the middle of their sausage making road, and say, I know you're looking at sausage making, but I really want you to go and have a look at these knives, or this sausage making machine. Even though, yes, I know you typed in sausage making tips, I actually am a manufacturer of sausage making machines, and I want you to look at my machines, even though you were looking at the tips. And that's what we've been doing. That's what I did for years, is I would take any phrase I could think of that's remotely related to my particular product, and I would try to distract people and get them to make a detour. And anytime you do that, it's not sleight of hand. I mean, that's what is marketing if it's not getting people's attention. But here's the cool thing about this new marketing. This very much, I love Seth Godin's Permission Marketing. That's a great book if you have the chance to read that. But this new marketing is, if you think about it, they type in a phrase, sausage making tips. They're taken to a page which is an article with sausage making tips. And at the end of it, gently, they're directed to somewhere that would enhance their whole sausage making experience. So the value is added at every step of the chain. The person, rather than feels angry at being interrupted from the flow of what they're doing, it's like taking this beautiful canoe trip down a beautiful, look at that picture, it's so peaceful and calm, and it's so calm that the lake is like a mirror. And that's what I love about what we're teaching here, and what I've been practicing for the last 6 months, is that it is permission-based marketing. It's marketing that adds value at every step of the way. And if ultimately you're adding to the experience that the person is, you're being useful, you're being helpful, you're adding value, that's good, right? That is marketing the way the internet works. And you're always going to be good with Google, you're always going to be good with the internet, because that's all Google wants. Google wants, when somebody types in sausage making tips, they want their number one thing, funnily enough, to be something about sausage making tips. Now, you all remember 12 months ago, and it really doesn't matter how new you are to internet marketing, when I describe this phenomena, you'll have remembered it, because it will have annoyed the heck out of you, is, 12 months ago, when all these AdSense sites were popping up everywhere, and people made bazillions out of it. Huge money, huge. But you would type in a phrase, and up would come this seemingly site that's all about sausage making tips. And you go to it, and bam, pop-ups would start jumping up on your screen, and it just seems full of links and everything like that. And basically, you clicked on anything to get out of it, any way you can. And of course, anything you clicked on that page made money for the person who put that piece of poo in front of you. Fortunately, of course, Google recognized this and slapped them all down, and the world is a better place for it. But that doesn't add value. That's not marketing which adds value. Sure, there are arbitrages and all sorts of things you can do, but honestly, folks, not my cup of tea. I'm not the right person to come to for that type of marketing education. I love to add value to people at every step of the way, because I figure in the long term, that's more ecological. I can sleep better at nights knowing that I'm doing it that way. And hey, to appeal to the mercenary in you, you'll make more money over the long term doing it. And so that's what I love about this process that we're going to be showing you over the next few days. And again, look, I've said that, marking away the networks, and it's just a little graphic from inside the immediate edge there. We do a lot of process charts and things like that. Now, how you can be ahead of the game, and this is the practical part of this lesson. And again, years ago when I was living with Gary, and he'd sort of I've been living with Gary for some time, and he'd been showing me the ropes of direct marketing and so on, and I suppose what I'd been doing is educating him about the internet. And I remember explaining, sort of Google rankings and all this sort of thing, and search engine stuff, and he just looked at me and declared, "You know what? I am the greatest search engine guy in the world." I went, "Oh yeah, Gary, really? Is that so?" He said, "It's easy. You just have a look at what the top 20 sites are doing where you want to be, and just do what they do." And I just sort of laughed about it at the time, but you know what? The old bugger was absolutely right. It's exactly how to do it, and how you, perhaps with no education, no experience, none of this whole search engine optimization stuff, or which is what SEO stands for, by the way, none of that stuff. You're actually, I think, in this day and age, perhaps at an advantage to people who've been doing it for years. And the reason is because things are happening and changing so rapidly that the best way is to observe. And there's a really good way to do it. Now, Dominish, which is, you can see the chart there, and that graphic is a graphic which, if you type in the word Dominish into Google, that's what comes up. Now, the reason this is important, please don't buy anything or anything like that. That's not what this is about. The reason I put that up is that at Christmas of this year, Dominish didn't exist. It was a made-up word, right? So if you typed in Dominish, there was nothing. Now, if you go to Google now and type in Dominish, there's obviously a lot. But what's fascinating about it, and I encourage you to do this, is go through and have a look at the listings. They can tell you a hell of a lot. Because this never existed, it's like an education into what properties will work using these strategies. And this is what's fascinating about all of this. And so what we're going to be teaching, and this is the fundamentals part, folks. If you can recognize this, and again, don't worry, this is all theory at the moment. We will show you the practical nature of this, but I'm just saying long term, as you make this your profession, I really encourage you to go and type in your phrase into Google and then have a really good close look at what comes up, because that is the way you can work out how to attack any particular phrase. So Dominish is a classic example because it didn't exist. So it really is only existed in the past, well, I suppose it's 8 months now, and that gives you a very, very interesting perspective. For example, in Google now there's video search, and look, if you do tag your videos correctly, these things can come up brilliantly as well. Now, it's, again, I'm just giving you the theory here, but it is very powerful, and if you get that, you'll do very well. But if some of this seemed over your head, don't panic. Please don't panic, because we're going to show you exactly what you need to do over the next few days to absolutely slam this challenge home. I expect there to be a huge number of people who are successful with this particular challenge this year, and it's because of this pretty amazing method. But we're going to show you the step-by-steps, starting, well, today we're going to show you how to set up blogs, which are an important part of it. But the blogs actually, believe it or not, don't matter per se to this. They're something which will come into play, I suppose, after the 30-day challenge is long gone. But Dan is going to take you through blogs today, and then we're going to really get into the getting of traffic, and with a bit of luck you'll start seeing some traffic in a couple of days time. And if you're seeing traffic, you never know, you may crack that sale and you crack that sale, and if you make $10, you've won the challenge. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm very interested in your feedback. Would appreciate any ratings and so on that you could give to this video. It's an important one, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you find it useful. All right, gang. Speak soon.